May 2012. Paris. A young Chinese student and her fiancé suddenly vanish. Their apartment sits silent. A tiny newborn life gone with them. What started as a simple nanny hire unraveled within days into a murder case that rocked both China and France. How deadly can misplaced trust be? The answer waits in the dark shadows of the Bois de Vincennes. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you want to see more crime stories, please like and subscribe. Let's dive in. In 1987, Wang Ying was born into a humble working-class household in Shenyang, Liaoning Province. By 2008, at just 21, inspired by her elder brother, who was already studying in France, she boarded a plane for Paris, determined to pursue her own education abroad. Her brother was enrolled at a different university in a neighboring city. To make ends meet, Wang Ying juggled her studies with part-time jobs. One late night in 2011, after a long shift at a restaurant, she stood tired and drowsy on a Paris metro platform when a stranger suddenly lunged forward, snatched her shoulder bag, and bolted. Startled, she cried out. Just then, a young Asian man at the station sprinted after the thief, caught him, retrieved the bag, and calmly returned it to her. Wang Ying was deeply moved by his kindness. She soon learned the young man's name, Xue Liangxi, also from China, and just a year older than she was. Xu had grown up in a small, impoverished village in Fuqing, Fujian Province. He had dropped out of school after junior high, and following in the footsteps of fellow villagers seeking a better life abroad, was smuggled into France as a teenager with relatives. To survive, he worked grueling, low-paid jobs off the books, sending most of his earnings back to his parents in China. Within a few years, thanks to his remittances, his family was able to build a new house in their hometown. When Wang Ying met him, Shuai still had no legal immigration status in France. That brief encounter on the metro platform drew them together, and as they spent more time in each other's company, their bond quietly deepened. Not long after they began dating, the couple rented a modest apartment in Paris's 15th arrondissement. Wang Ying kept balancing her studies with part-time work, while Xue continued with his low-paid manual jobs. Soon after they settled in together, Wang Ying discovered she was pregnant. Because Xue had no legal status in France, she confided only in her brother in France, keeping the pregnancy a secret from their parents back in China. Both were excited about the pregnancy and felt they could handle whatever came their way. However, her brother urged caution. Their income was small, their housing unstable. One was still in school, the other had no legal papers, hardly the right conditions to raise a child. But Wang Ying saw the baby as the symbol of their love and couldn't bear the thought of ending the pregnancy. She believed that, young and hardworking as they were, they would find a way through the hardships. She also reasoned that a child born and raised in France could more easily obtain French citizenship and qualify for government child support benefits to ease their financial burden. In February 2012, their son was born. Alongside his Chinese name, they gave him a French one, Lucas. They never imagined the baby's arrival would turn their lives upside down. Lucas cried constantly, and neither parent had any experience caring for an infant. Exhausted and sleep-deprived, they struggled to balance work and study. After 2 grueling months, they were at their breaking point. Desperate, they decided to hire a full-time nanny for a year or two, just until Wang Ying could finish her degree. But French nannies were far too expensive, and the language barrier added to the challenge. So Wang Ying began searching through Chinese community forums in Paris. In April, she came across a promising ad posted by Zhang Hui, a full-time mother with a 2-year-old son who offered home daycare because she couldn't take an outside job. In her ad, Zhang Hui introduced herself, 31 years old, originally from Suzhou, living in Paris's 12th arrondissement. She had both Chinese and French university degrees, held legal French residency, spoke fluent French, had childcare experience, and could take another child either full-time or part-time. Wang Ying was delighted. Zhang Hui seemed like the perfect fit. After several phone conversations, Wang Ying and Xue went to visit her apartment. It was a relatively upscale 60-square-meter flat. Spotless, neatly arranged, and well-equipped for caring for infants. Her own 3-year-old son looked healthy and cheerful, which reassured the young parents. Zhang Hui explained that her husband, a Shanghai native, had earned legal residency after graduating in France, and had recently changed jobs to work in a ramen shop. His income was modest. She stayed home to care for their child, so she decided to run a small home daycare to help with household expenses. Zhang Hui's warmth, her confident talk about childcare, and the tidy home with a thriving toddler quickly earned the couple's trust. They soon decided to leave baby Lucas in her care. A written agreement was signed. Zhang Hui would care for Lucas on weekdays. The parents could visit every 3 days and would take him home on weekends, bringing him back each Monday. The fee was 800 euros per month. Although the arrangement solved their childcare problem, Wang Ying still felt uneasy. Her baby was far too young to be left in someone else's home. Soon, however, she noticed something strange. Lucas, who was usually fussy and cried nonstop at home, was always calm at Zhang Hui's apartment. Every time they visited, he was sleeping soundly and never made a fuss. Yet the moment they brought him back home, the crying started again. Believing that Zhang Hui simply had a special way with babies, Wang Ying's doubts faded, and her trust in the nanny grew, never imagining that this trust would end in tragedy for the entire family. On May 23, 2012, Wang Ying called her brother to arrange a small get-together for the following evening after work. But by the afternoon of May 24th, her brother couldn't reach her. Both her and Shu's phones had been switched off. At first, he thought they were just busy, but over the next 2 days, the phone stayed off. Growing worried, Wang's brother contacted the restaurant where they both worked and was told that a few days earlier, the couple had asked for time off, saying they needed to pick up their baby because the nanny was supposedly returning to China, and that they'd be back at work once the baby was settled. After that call, no one ever heard from them again. Wang's brother grew increasingly concerned, but kept calling them every day. By May 30th, still unable to reach them, he finally had someone unlock the couple's apartment. Inside, empty. Leftover food on the table had turned moldy. Milk left in the baby's bottle had spoiled. Both of their phones were still there. Nothing suggested they had planned to go anywhere. He even found their wallets and passports tucked away in the drawers. Alarmed, he powered on Wang Ying's phone and discovered her last messages. From the nanny. "Come pick up the baby today, please. My father-in-law's had a sudden medical emergency. We have to return to China to care for him." Still suspicious, he went to the Paris police on June 1st, 8 days after the couple had vanished, and also reached out to Sue's parents in China. Family discussions revealed that Wang Ying and Xue had been at home the night of May 23rd, speaking normally with relatives by phone. Shu's cousin in Paris added that he had also spoken to him around 4 p.m. on May 24th, and he'd sounded perfectly fine. While Paris police continued their investigation, Wang Ying's brother managed to reach Zhang Hui. She claimed that she and her husband had already returned to China because her father-in-law had suffered a stroke. She said the couple had picked up baby Lucas on May 24th and that she hadn't heard from them since, but promised to stay in touch and cooperate with police to help find them. Zhang Hui appeared calm, yet the brother remained suspicious. He asked to visit her apartment, but she avoided giving him the address. Police inquiries revealed that shortly after Wang Ying and Xue disappeared, Zhang Hui's husband Lu Tei had abruptly quit his job and purchased a one-way ticket to China. 2 days later, Zhang Hui followed with their child, on a round-trip ticket. And curiously, the couple transferred all their savings back to China and closed their French bank accounts. After working so hard to build a life in France, why would they shut down everything merely because of a relative's illness? Since Zhang Hui's apartment was the last known place Wang Ying and Xue had visited, police searched it. It was spotlessly clean. The floors and bathroom had been scrubbed with special cleaning chemicals. Yet no evidence surfaced that could link the nanny's sudden departure to the young couple's disappearance. The families could do little but wait, meanwhile posting missing person notices online in both China and France, naming Zhang Hui and Lu Te as possibly connected to the disappearance. On June 7, 2012, Paris police received a chilling call. Two women jogging in the southeastern Bois de Vincennes had discovered a decomposing human leg. A week later, on June 15, a man walking his guide dog in the same park found a human torso lying in the grass. Further searches uncovered additional body parts, but no heads. DNA testing confirmed they belonged to two adult Asians, one male and one female. At that point, police still hadn't connected these grisly discoveries to the missing young Chinese couple. The Bois de Vincennes, nearly 995 hectares of woodland crisscrossed with walking, cycling, and riding trails, is a popular outdoor retreat for Parisians, and it sits notably close to the 12th arrondissement. On June 16, Zhang Hui and Lu Te, accompanied by their lawyers, turned themselves in at a Paris police station, claiming the remains found in the park were those they had disposed of. Only then did investigators link the forest dismemberment case to the disappearance of Wang Ying and Shui. During interrogation, Zhang Hui confessed. She said she had cared for baby Lucas diligently, but on the night of May 23rd, he had died suddenly for unknown reasons. Panicked, she and her husband considered calling the police, but feared the repercussions. She had no official nanny license, and both held only French residence permits. She feared exposure would undo the years they had spent building a life in France. Instead, they chose to inform the baby's parents and tried to reach a private arrangement. At noon on May 24th, Zhang Hui called Wang Ying, claiming that her father-in-law had suffered a stroke and urging her to come pick up the baby right away. When the couple arrived, they were met not by their child's smile, but by his lifeless body. Zhang Hui insisted it had been an accident, perhaps sudden infant death syndrome. Wang Ying was distraught. Zhang Hui proposed financial compensation if they would agree not to call the police. According to Zhang Hui, the grief-stricken parents lost control. Wang Ying screamed and lunged at her, grabbing her throat. Shui, enraged, snatched a kitchen knife and slashed at the couple. During the struggle, Zhang Hui was cut, while her husband Lu Te was stabbed and collapsed, unconscious. Zhang Hui claimed she then seized a hatchet in self-defense and struck the two repeatedly, killing them. Seeing both parents dead, she said she dragged all three bodies into the bathroom and used an electric saw to dismember them in the bathtub. She later dumped baby Lucas's remains along with other pieces into trash bins, while Lu Te, still recovering, accompanied her on foot to scatter the parents' remains in the nearby Bois de Vincennes. Zhang Hui told police she alone bore responsibility for the deaths, insisting the killings were in self-defense, and that her husband had been semi-conscious from his wound, helping only to dispose of the remains after he awoke and discovered what she had done. Back at the apartment, she meticulously cleaned the scene, even purchasing a UV lamp to check for hidden bloodstains, before the couple flew to China with their own son. About 2 weeks later, they returned to Paris and surrendered to the authorities. DNA tests confirmed that the remains found in the forest belonged to Wang Ying and Shui Liangxi, but the body of 2.5-month-old Lucas was never recovered. There were no eyewitnesses. With the victims dead and the injuries on Zhang Hui and Lu Te impossible to verify, there was no conclusive evidence as to who had inflicted them. Police never disclosed any hospital visit records for Zhang Hui or Lu Te after the incident. The case caused a public outcry in France, especially within the Chinese community. The French media dubbed Zhang Hui la dépeceuse du Bois de Vincennes, the woman who dismembered victims in the Bois de Vincennes. Zhang Hui, only 1.5 meters tall, around 4'11", prompted many to doubt that she could have single-handedly killed and dragged two adults. In 2013, Paris police reenacted the scene in the original apartment. She demonstrated that she could drag two adult-sized dummies into the bathtub, and she passed the test. Investigators noted that Zhang Hui's story hinged on Lucas's alleged accidental death, yet she never revealed his true cause of death or where she had disposed of his remains. The victim's relatives believe she had been sedating the baby, pointing out that whenever Wang Ying visited, Lucas was always asleep. But without the body, this theory has never been proven. The case dragged on for 4 years before finally going to trial in January 2016 in Paris. Both Zhang Hui and Lu Tei, then 34 years old, appeared in court with separate defense attorneys. Zhang Hui admitted to the double homicide and dismemberment, saying tearfully, "It isn't luck that I'm alive. Living with this guilt is true torture." Beside her, Lu Tei wept throughout the proceedings, pleading, "I hope you can understand the whirlpool of misfortunes we went through. We are sincerely remorseful." Lu Tei's attorney was the renowned criminal defense lawyer, Me Eric Dupont-Moretti, famous for winning around 145 acquittals in high-profile and often controversial cases. A forceful, outspoken courtroom figure who would later become France's Minister of Justice in 2020. He argued that merely being present at the scene did not prove co-perpetration or complicity, noting that even investigators admitted there was no evidence tying Lu Tei directly to the killings. Zhang Hui's lawyer, Me Alexis Guedj, maintained that she had acted in self-defense, pointing out that his client had medically documented injuries consistent with being strangled, cut, and scratched during the struggle, and claimed she was no longer herself when she later dismembered the bodies. The victim's family's attorney argued that Zhang Hui's actions were anything but self-defense. The hatchet and electric saw pointed to premeditation, while the couple's swift flight to China spoke volumes about their intent. Zhang Hui maintained that they fled only to place their own child in the care of grandparents in China, and had always intended to return to France, not to evade justice. But the victim's attorney countered that Chinese authorities had already issued a wanted notice, naming the couple in connection with the disappearance of a Chinese family. And since all parties were Chinese citizens, China had jurisdiction and could have sought the death penalty. France, which has long abolished capital punishment, would regard a voluntary surrender as a mitigating factor. The Paris Assize Court ultimately sided with the prosecution's sentencing request, rejecting Zhang Hui's claim of self-defense and finding no evidence that Lu Tei had delivered the fatal blows. Zhang Hui was convicted of murdering and dismembering the baby's parents and sentenced to 20 years in prison, plus 325,000 euros in compensation to the victim's family. Her husband Lu Tei was acquitted and freed in court. The verdict landed like a bombshell in the French-Chinese community. Many were outraged that the killing of 3 innocent lives had brought only a 20-year sentence, calling it a miscarriage of justice. In March 2023, French media reported that Zhang Hui, now 41, had been released under electronic monitoring parole, thanks to her exemplary prison record. Incarcerated since June 19, 2012, she was deemed a model inmate, earning every possible sentence reduction. Since 2017, she had been granted 21 temporary leaves, each time hosted by a religious community in Poissy. Behind bars, she studied and earned a vocational bakery certificate, and had paid the victim's family 3,500 euros, a token sum, but presented as proof of remorse. Yet, France's Prison Integration and Probation Service expressed misgivings, describing her statements as lacking sincerity, contradictory, overdramatic, and at times, excessively polite, bordering on obsequious or condescending. She had even claimed she killed to protect baby Lucas from his parents, alleging that the baby's father, Shui Liangxi, had underworld ties, assertions the 2021 review board found troubling, citing her dangerous traits and immaturity, though they rated her risk of reoffending as low. Despite prosecutors' objections, Zhang Hui walked free after just over 10 years behind bars, and, if she complies with all conditions, she could gain full parole within 2 more years. This case, over a decade old, began as a simple act of trust and ended in a tragedy that shocked both China and France. Wang Ying, Shui Liangxi, and their 2.5-month-old son Lucas never saw another dawn. Their story is a stark reminder that misplaced trust can sometimes cost everything. Today, Zhang Hui walks free, but those 3 lives remain frozen in the summer of 2012. For their families, the pain never ended with the verdict. France's justice system, often praised for its humanity, felt disturbingly lenient here. 3 lives lost, yet the killer served barely 10 years. It forces us to ask, does the law truly protect society, or does it at times shield the offender? When the law shows mercy to the perpetrator but fails to bring justice to the victims, justice itself becomes an empty word. This case sparked outrage and debate, and stands as a sobering reminder that, especially far from home, trust and safety should never be taken for granted. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to hear more true crime stories, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.